Hi and welcome to Fearless Warriors Interviews with me, Cesar Zunyan, and today we have Amanda Michelle Shenton. Welcome, Amanda.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Thank you for being on our show. So, a little bit about Amanda. Amanda Michelle is a former high school teacher turned mindfulness master. Today, she helps women all over the world to reduce their anxiety and become more present so that they can begin to experience all of the joy and abundance that life has to offer. Amanda is also on a mission to shed some love and light on mental health awareness through her business, Life Lessons and Lavender. She uses mindfulness as a tool to take her clients from anxious to fearless. I love that.
Thank you. Yeah, I love those words. Fearless. Fearlessness is so powerful.
Exactly. So Amanda, why don't you tell us a bit about your journey, so from where you were to where you are now and how that came about?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started my journey really at the end of 2016, I would say. And that was when my anxiety kind of came to a peak. It really climaxed at that time in my life. Um, I have struggled with generalized anxiety disorder and depression for many years. And for a long time, I didn't know what it was. You know, I think a lot of times we, especially women, because we feel a lot, right? We feel all the feels. But sometimes it's hard for us to put our finger on it and really gain awareness on what it is that we're experiencing and why we're experiencing these emotions. So it took me a long time, about 15 years, to get to the point where I knew that what I was feeling was not just a stress that, would come and go that I could deal with. Um, and so I started practicing meditation and I started reading a lot of books, and I studied a little bit of behavioral psychology in grad school. And all of those things combined really brought me to this point where I said, enough is enough. I don't need to feel this way. I shouldn't have to feel this way. And there's a greater life out there for me that I just need to access. Mm-hmm. And so that's where my business came into play. And believe it or not, I was kind of encouraged and inspired by my former students to start on this journey, because so many of the students that I worked with were struggling with anxiety, stress, overwhelm, anger issues, just emotional distress that they didn't know what to do with it. Mm-hmm. And so they said, you know what, Mrs. Shenton, you got to go out there and you have to spread your message, and people need help with this. And so I have them to thank. I really do.
Wow. That's an amazing story.
It was something else.
Sounds it. So today we're going to focus on how mindfulness can help with anxiety. Mm-hmm. So do you want to tell us a little bit about what mindfulness is first, for anyone who doesn't know?
Yeah, absolutely. So mindfulness has definitely become a word that a lot of people are just throwing out there. So I'm glad that you asked about what it is. The basic principle behind mindfulness is that we bring awareness to the present moment. So many of us are living either in the past or are living in the future. And very few of us are able to access the present moment, right here, right now. Me talking with you, having a meaningful connection, and not allowing my thoughts to go off in all these other directions, right? Thinking about, well, what do I have to do after this? What am I going to eat for lunch today? It's about embracing where we are right now, because the present moment is all we have. Mm-hmm. And anxiety is really fear that has been conditioned. And these old habits, these old ways of thinking about the world and about what we should be doing and how we should be feeling, that have become conditioned over time. And so it's really a habit and a cycle that we have to break.
Yeah. So when you say it's a condition fear, what do you mean by that?
Yeah. So if you think about, well, first of all, so there's two parts of our brain that are kind of at work whenever we feel an emotion or think a thought. There's our subconscious and our conscious mind, right?
Yeah.
And so the subconscious mind, I like to think of as like the TV that's on in the background when you put on the Netflix show and you're like cleaning the house and doing all these other things. The TV's always on, right? It's
Yeah.
noise, a little distraction there. And then your conscious mind is focusing on the thoughts that you are aware of. Okay, I'm feeling sad today, right? Or I'm feeling nervous about this job interview or whatever it is. But the fear is really trapped in the subconscious part of your brain. So it could be a fear that, let's say you're afraid of, you're nervous about a job interview that's coming up, right? And the nerves are just getting to you. You're trying to calm down. You're trying to be cool about it because you want to go into it with a good mind. But perhaps all of the emotions that you're feeling are a conditioning of a past experience or a conditioning of something that somebody said to you about, don't mess up, or this job interview is so important, or you have to get a new job, you got to start making more money, whatever. And so all of these thoughts and past experiences that we've had, they build and they build and they build because we're not allowing ourselves to release them.
Yeah.
And they're conditioning a thought that I have to be nervous about this job interview for reasons X, Y, and Z. Does that make sense?
Yes. That's a good way of explaining it. So something that's happened in the past is linked to that experience. So whenever you have thoughts similar to that, it brings up those subconscious fears.
Right, right.
And
sometimes we can identify the root of it, right? Sometimes it's easy to, oh yeah, it's probably because I had a bad interview the last time. Sometimes it's something that happened so long ago, or it was the most minute detail of your life that you never would have thought would impact you today, but it is.
Exactly. Yeah. That's so true. Sometimes we don't even know what has caused it, and it's so tiny you don't even remember.
Exactly.
But it has such a big effect.
Yes.
So tell us how mindfulness will help with something like anxiety.
So the basic idea is that mindfulness allows you to access the space between your thoughts, which is difficult for a lot of people to visualize, that we even have pauses between our thoughts, because sometimes there's so much going on in your mind. Most people who struggle with stress or anxiety or overwhelm, whatever word you want to attach to it, most of those people aren't giving themselves the opportunity to sit in silence and to really become aware of exactly what they're feeling and why they're feeling it.
Okay.
So an example of mindfulness, or a mindfulness practice that has totally changed my life, is meditation.
Okay.
And a lot of people, when I say that, they're like, that's not for me. Meditation's not for me. But you have to realize meditation doesn't mean that you have to be sitting in like the dark with candles singing Kumbaya, right? Meditation can mean that in a moment of stress, in a moment of overwhelm, you take a moment, you close your eyes, you take a deep mindful breath in, you focus on the breath, you bring attention there, you release the tension, and you bring a little bit of clarity to whatever situation you're in. It could be something as simple as that.
Yeah, which is so effective. Just stopping all those thoughts going on and just having a moment of peace and breathing.
Right. Right. We breathe all day, every day, but we're not really breathing in a way that is having a positive impact, right? It's like one of the only things that we do that you don't have to think about.
Yeah.
But there's a difference between, okay, I'm breathing, and mindfully breathing. counting your breath, focusing on the feeling of the air going in and then coming out again.
Yeah, you're right. It's a different type of breathing, and when you get nervous or like anxious, you're breathing much more shallow, which then has a big effect. So actually just stopping and taking in a deep breath makes such a difference.
Yeah, it does.
So how long have you personally been doing mindfulness or meditation?
Meditation I've been doing for about a year. When I started, it took me a while to get used to the practice. A common misconception is that there's a right and wrong way to do it.
Yes.
So, I'll admit that when I started, I was disappointed because I thought, shouldn't I be having this like out of body experience? Shouldn't I be like floating and like just feeling all these beautiful feelings? But actually, when you start practicing mindfulness and awareness, it might actually be a little painful because you're allowing things to come up, thoughts and emotions that you've been pushing back for so long.
Yeah.
So I know a lot of people who, when they start, they either get really frustrated, or I actually knew a woman who had a little bit of a panic attack the first time that she meditated because she had been suppressing so many emotions and they just came out, they flooded out. Right? It was a total release. And so it feels different for everyone when you start, but I had to consistently practice just a few minutes every day, couple of minutes, 3 minutes, then 5 minutes, then 10 minutes. And you just increase your practice over time and you begin to feel the effects of it, the more you do it.
I guess it's like anything, you need to practice and build on it. No one's going to be great in the first moment they do it, just like
right.
Cool.
And it's funny because a lot of people, when we feel like we want to experience more happiness in our lives, we want it just to happen, right? That instant satisfaction, that instant impact. When we want to feel less anxiety, we just want it to happen.
Yeah,
that's not the way the world works, right? It's the way the mind works. So you need to approach your practice without judgment, and kind of detaching yourself from the outcome a little bit and allowing yourself to kind of grow at your own pace.
I guess if you go in with an expectation and it doesn't happen, then you're going to come out feeling disappointed or frustrated or whatever,
right?
And I like what you say, without judgment, because like you said, feelings and emotions and all these things that are blocked up in your body are going to start coming up, and you have to allow them to come out without judging them or judging yourself. That is a really good point. I like that you said that. And so how in your business do you help people with mindfulness and anxiety and all that? Like, how does it work?
So there are a couple of different approaches to it. Some people require a little bit more of a personal connection. So through one-on-one coaching, I work with the client for an extended period of time because, like I said, it's not going to happen in a week. So some people choose to work with me for 6 weeks. Sometimes it's 3 months. Sometimes it's 6 months. And, we basically tailor the practice to that person's lifestyle. And we tailor the practice to whatever the goals are that person is trying to achieve. So, for example, if you're stuck in a job that's just making you miserable and it's giving you anxiety, and that that's a trigger for you, then we need to come up with a plan and implement certain strategies into your daily life to allow you to break free of that. In whatever, now that might happen in many ways. You might end up leaving your job and finding a new one that fills you up. Or you might find a way to enjoy your job a little bit more and take back some of that happiness.
Okay.
And then the other way, which is my favorite, is I run a 6-week intensive called the Mindfulness Masterclass. And that's just a combination of all of the practices that I've used and that I have found that work, no matter who you are, where you are, what age you are. And we work over those 6 weeks to break down certain blocks. I teach you how to meditate in a way that's going to work for you. And we start to heal. It's really, all of this is about healing something, and about designing a new life for yourself that you can feel really good about and really proud of.
That sounds really good. So if someone wants a bit more information, where's the best place for them to go to find out about you?
Yeah, you can visit my website, which is lifelessonsandlavender.com. And you can also join me on Facebook, my Facebook group, Anxious to Fearless. I post a lot of free trainings in there, as well as weekly guided meditation, so you can start your practice today.
Oh, awesome. That sounds amazing. I'm also part of that group.
Yay!
I just wanted to ask, why did you call your business Life Lessons in Lavender?
That's a really good question. Nobody ever asks me that either. That's a really good question. So honestly, it came about, I was sitting at work when I was teaching, and I knew that I was going to quit. I knew that I was going to leave. And I had recently accepted a job with a floral designer. Okay, so I had flowers on the brain. And I was thinking about all the things that kind of brought me to that moment. And so obviously life, right? The ups and downs of life, and acknowledging that life does not happen in a straight line. It does not necessarily happen in a series of well-planned out steps. Up and down. I thought about the lessons that I had learned and that my students had taught me that brought me to that point. And then lavender is actually one of my favorite flowers. We had grown a lavender plant in my backyard. And I remember in moments of stress, I would go out and I would touch the lavender and just smell it a little bit, and the scent would really calm me down. It also happens to be my favorite essential oil. So so the lavender just kind of came about because to me it represents a release. It represents feelings of tranquility. And it's beautiful, and it's something that anybody, it's like one of those things that you kind of pass by, on the road or whatever. But it's like that little reminder to stop and smell the lavender, stop and smell the roses, and enjoy the moment.
Well, lavender it has a very calming smell, and just picturing lavender and like all that purple, it's quite a relaxing feeling.
Yeah.
So, I really like that name. Good choice.
Thank you.
So I'd like to end the interview with either a wow factor, so a tip or something you want to give to the audience that would benefit them, they can implement straight away. It can be just like a tip or an advice or anything you want.
Sure. So something that I would encourage you to do today is to take 2 minutes out of your day. It could be at wherever you are, it doesn't matter. And I want you to try a little mindful breathing. So in order to do that, the way that I've found that works the best is you close your eyes and you take a deep breath in, breathing in on the count of 4, holding for 3, and then releasing for 6. And you do that a couple of times, and you can count in your head, breathing in for 4, holding for 3, releasing for 6. And you just do that a few times, and it brings you back to the moment. It lets you know everything's okay. I'm in a safe space, and the rest of my day, I'm going to get through it, whatever it is. And that's just something really simple that you can do a couple of times a day to kind of kick off that mindfulness practice.
Oh, brilliant. That sounds really good. And that's something everyone can do straight away. So no excuses.
Yeah. I mean, really, you could do it wherever, whenever.
Exactly. All right. That's brilliant. thank you so much for being on this interview and all the information and tips you've given us. It's been really, really great. And if anyone wants to find out about Amanda, I will be putting all the links that you need to contact her as part of the post for this for this interview. And thank you, Amanda, again for being on the interview.
Thank you so much for having me. I really, really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Bye, everyone, and see you next week.